Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
Doing great, Eric. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Actually have a spring-like day here in February 4th here. It's almost 60 degrees out.
Yeah, we had the polar vortex go across the country, and that seems to be over. And hopefully, we won't have another one this year.
Hopefully not.
But
I have
I
some
mean,
cousins out in the Midwest that were absolutely frozen out in the Milwaukee area. And Chicago was like minus 25, minus 30 for a couple of days. I mean, it was just crazy.
yeah, there were parts of the Midwest -30 with no wind chill, -60 with the wind chill.
Yeah,
E-
Minnesota. Wow.
Even the US Postal Service went, nope, we're not delivering in this. And that doesn't happen all that often. So it was really cold. We're glad that's over. And hopefully, if any of our listeners were affected by this, they came through okay.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to talk about getting organized. And we're talking about this both your home, your business, yourself. Organization is a very important tool. And most of us waste a lot of time when we get disorganized, trying to find something, trying to remember something. So, we're going to talk about the different ways to get yourself organized. And one of the things that I've actually done this in the past, but I came across a couple of mentions of it. It's fairly common. But you sort of have to trick yourself in your mindset. And in terms of work, the trick is to make yourself think you are on vacation next week. Because if you think about it, when you're in your office, you're going to be on vacation next week. You're cleaning the desk, you're getting everything organized so that when you come back, you don't have to deal with it. On the home side, it's the same type of trick, but rather than tricking yourself into thinking you're going on vacation, you're tricking yourself into thinking your in-laws are coming for a visit. Because nothing gets a house cleaner than having your in-laws come over. And I saw both of these tricks. And I have to say, I had never thought of the in-law trick before, but having just actually had my mother-in-law come for a 2-week visit, I can absolutely say it's true. We threw out more stuff, we cleaned more stuff before she got here.
Wow. And for some people out there, maybe having the in-laws come over for a week is an excuse for them to take a vacation while they're there. So it's a
But
double.
there you go. But so when you get yourself into those mindsets, the first thing most of us start doing is start cleaning. And the big trick that most of us fail to do actually is to say to ourselves when we look at something, yes, I am not going to need this. I am not going to use this. Let's throw it away. Because most of us tend to look at something and go, well, I might need that at some point.
Yeah, and one of the tricks there, if you're using like a filing system or basically putting papers in different spots or whatever, if you have a particular space where you have different troughs there for current stuff and for another thing, and you have different titles written down there, and if something is sitting there for more than a week without moving, chances are it's time to throw it out. But it's really, really important when you're getting papers in and so on and so forth, um, to sort them out and put them in a place where you're going to be working on them. If it's a priority, working on it today or tomorrow or whatever. And it's also the same thing when now that we're in this email world, to set up folders in your email files to do the same thing for you. I mean, you could have active, you could have pending, and so on and so forth, but it's really, really important to be cleaning things out because the bottom line is whether it's your desk full of papers or whether it's your email file full of different emails, how much time do you waste just going through this thing time and time again?
Exactly. Organization is really about saving us time and saving us from stress, because that's another big part of it. Studies have shown being disorganized causes a lot of stress. And I want to be very clear about this. You can look at somebody's desk and it may look like a mess and yet be completely organized. When I worked in corporate, a couple of times this had happened where my desk was piles. It was just piles upon piles of paper. But when someone asked me, "Oh, do you have such and such?" I could get to any piece of paper in any of those piles in about 10 to 15 seconds. I knew exactly where every one of them was because they were organized, but because I didn't have enough drawer space and I didn't have enough file space, it was messy. So there is a difference between, mess and organization. Ideally, you want to have enough drawer space, enough file space, enough shelf space so that you don't have to resort to these messy piles.
Yeah, and again, it's really, really important when you get something in to act upon it right away. And if you can just open something up, act upon it right away, whether it's throwing it out or putting it in a place where you know you're going to check back on it and make that decision, it's really, really important to get your routine down. You talked about pretending you're going on vacation. The bottom line is one of the reasons that you like to get everything done before you go on vacation is so you don't have the stress factor that you were talking about. Who wants to go on a vacation and worry about what they got to do when they get home? So
Exactly.
reason for doing this. And the bottom line is, every time you look at a mess, you get stress. They rhyme for a reason.
And you brought up an important point, and I think we've actually talked about this when we discussed time management. When something comes in, basically there's should be ideally one of four things done. Either one, act on it immediately, two, put it aside for reference, three, delegate an action, or four, throw it out. And you should be making that decision for each email, piece of paper, publication, whatever it is, as soon as it comes in, or at least have it done by the end of the day. You don't want things going to the next day.
Yeah, and if you do, here comes the stress, knowing that you
Exactly.
something tomorrow.
And by making that decision quickly, act on it right now, delegate it, throw it out. Those are usually the big three. Keeping something for reference, you should have, for email, you should have a separate folder. You should have a file cabinet of things that you keep for reference. But these should be things that are actual resources. Your reference folder is not oh, well, I'll get to it later. It's information that you want to review in depth, but you don't have time to do that now. By the same token, you should review that reference folder before it gets too big. And if it does get too big, go through it and go, yeah, I didn't need this, didn't need this, didn't need this, and get rid of things.
Yeah, as part of your time management system, you should really put it in your calendar to address this thing on a periodic basis. But the bottom line is, if you can put things away immediately, whether it's in whatever folder that you're talking about there, that's going to help you out a whole lot. So that's one of the biggest points, is just to take a look at something, sort it, put it away immediately, and make sure you go back to the things that are pending periodically and throw things out if they're there too long. We all are victims of just hanging on to stuff for such a long time. And, I mean, one of the best things you can do if you're talking about your home, that closet full of clothes and shoes and everything else that's been piling up and piling up. So you got to start taking over your kids who've moved out closets. Go in there and clean things out. And one of the best things you can do is recycle things, donate them things to charity. The bottom line is, there's a whole lot of charities out there, Goodwill and things like that, that you can donate things to. There are other nonprofits that'll pick things up from you. So if you can go through that and make a habit of doing that on a periodic basis, and even better, when you want to go out and buy new things, dispose of something before you buy something new to make room for it. I mean, these are little habits that you can get into when you're looking at things and say, do I really need this? And what can I do? You can do a whole lot of good with things that are hanging around your house that you never use anymore. And it's going to help out a lot of people who really need them.
All right. And when you look at something with that question, do I really need this? You have to be honest with yourself. I know I've done this. I know probably hundreds of other people who have done this. It's very common, where we will have things in our closet and our thought is, well, I'm going to wear that again when I lose the weight. Be honest. Are you ever really going to wear that again? By the time we lose the weight, it's gone out of style. Don't hold on to things because you're trying to get back to a certain point. When you hold on to clothes saying, okay, I'll wear that again when I lose the weight. Oh, I'll take up that hobby again when I have the time. Those are basically ways of saying you want to try to go back.
Yeah.
To really get organized, you have to focus on moving forward.
Yeah, the present moment and moving ahead. The bottom line is, if you do lose the weight, instead of putting on that 30-year-old pair of Sansa belts, you can buy something new and more stylish these days. So,
Right. So one of the things that's very important when you're organizing either your office or your home is having the right space, essentially, whether it's file cabinets, whether it's hanging folders, whether it's stacking trays, whatever it is, you need to have the space to organize. And sometimes a lot of that is finding new ways to use those old things for more storage. I have old shelves that I used to use when I had a business of selling things at shows. So these were shelves that I could put together, take apart really quickly. Well, I don't do that anymore, so I didn't need those. But I could put those shelves together, put them up in my kitchen, and now I've got extra storage space in there. So be aware of what space you need and how you can get it.
yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can use as far as that go. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be able to work out of my house, and I have like a corner desk unit that had a lot of space in the back that went up against the wall. And what I did is I went out and I bought a portable bookshelf to stick in the back there where nobody can see it, but it's got all my books in there. I got a calendar that I can look at from time to time. There's a lot of different things that you can do as far as organizing what you have. And one of the things that you do need to do is, everybody has a hot spot. whether it's your office or your house, where things just pile up. And if you can start with attacking that and make sure that you keep that clean moving ahead, that is a great, great start as far as relieving your stress and getting on a roll to keep yourself organized. So if you can keep those hot spots clean so that you can actually eat at your dining room table instead of on the counter in the kitchen, it's a great place to start.
That is so true. I know for me, that hot spot is my garage. Whenever there's a question, oh, do we need? Oh, we'll put it in the garage. Well, after a while, we can't even get the car into the garage anymore, so we had to clean it out. But yes, everybody has that location. In the kitchen, most people have a junk drawer. There's usually, if you're in corporate at least, most people have a drawer where there's like takeout menus and things just get tossed in there. If you're keeping those clean, it's easier to keep the rest clean because it does really create a flow. And something to keep in mind is you should figure out where it is you are spending your time. In the office, the most obvious space is your desk. Well, if you're spending most of your time at your desk, then the things you use most often should be right by your desk. And the less you use something, the further away it should be. Same thing in your house. If you spend most of your time in a family room, most of the things that you're going to be using should be in the family room or close by, and things that are used less and less often, further and further away. This not only helps you figure out where things should go, but it also maximizes your time because you're not spending time going up and back getting things that you use frequently.
Yeah, and we're kind of talking about things that are kind of laying around for a while that we're trying to get rid of, but there's a lot of ways that you can get yourself organized for your business and personally just by doing things a little bit differently. For instance, a lot of people your age and my age actually have photographs on pieces of paper called photos as opposed to
Yes.
with emails. And there are services out there now where you can scan all those photos in. I mean, obviously you're going to want to save them and so on and so forth, but if you can scan those in, you can actually organize those on your computer to see them any way you want and organized in a lot of ways that you never thought possible of organizing things. Backing up computer files is really, really important. Also, uh, we talk online as far as organizing passwords and that kind of thing. But you can use technology to really, really help yourself get organized. And it really starts, with the writing things down, a to-do list. Obviously, you can do that online too, and with apps and so on and so forth. But if you do have a list of what you're doing and you have a calendar as far as when you're doing it, and we've talked often about the system that you've developed for doing that. That's so important to get things implemented so that you have yourselves in a routine to get things done, including making sure that you're organized.
Right. And to go back to something you said, photos. Ever since cameras were put into phones, people now have hundreds, thousands of photos. And if you don't take the time to organize them, you'll never find them again. So many people have folders upon folders of photos that the file name is whatever string of letters your phone assigned to them. Come up with a naming convention. Maybe a date of, date, place, and if there's a person in there, a name, or date, location, event. But have something so that when you look at that file name, you can go, oh, that's the picture I'm looking for.
Yeah, the question also is, do you really need to have that file in your phone? By using software like Dropbox and things like that, you can actually download things from your telephone, from your cell phone, into your computer, organize the folders there, and delete them from your phone. Because the bottom line is if you have too many pictures, you're going to run out of storage on your phone, and you're going to have to start deleting things anyway. So if you can get them off there and keep them in a virtual place like Dropbox where you can access them from an app on your iPhone, it's the same thing, and you're a whole lot more organized that way.
Right, and most phone manufacturers actually make that very easy for you. For Apple, they have iCloud that syncs your computer, your phone, and stores it in the cloud. Android has Google Drive. You can put things in there so it's off your phone, it's, stored in the cloud. But even putting it in the cloud, if you don't rename these so that it's something you'll recognize, finding them again is going to be difficult. So you really do want to rename those files and really think about what you're naming them. There's an old joke. I used to work as a graphic designer, and there's a joke, it pops up on Facebook periodically, that it's the designer's naming convention. And it's a list of files, and it starts with client file, and then it goes with final client file, and then it's second final client file, and then it's final client, because they make the assumption that, okay, this is it, we're done, and then of course the client comes back with changes. Realistically, name your files so that you know what they are. Name your folders so that you know what they are. You shouldn't have to search for things. You should be able to get them quickly.
Yeah, and your folders, if you put subfolders in there, that's a really, really good way to do that. Like I have a folder for my consulting practice, and inside that folder are the different clients that I have in there. For presentations, I have a folder, subfolders for the different types of presentations that I'm doing. I mean, you can organize things very, very well. And what I often use when I'm doing these things is I'll actually put a date in front of it. I'll just put the year and the month so that I can organize it by the date, so that whatever's old, I can delete that very easily and see what's new in there when I'm redoing the whole thing over and over and over again. So, yeah, the more time you put in ahead of time as far as organizing these things and setting up a system, the easier it's going to be moving ahead to find things.
Right. And now finding those things can be even easier for that first one, because we have all of these voice commands. The Macintosh has Siri built into it. Windows PCs have Cortana, but you can actually ask your computer, find all photos from 2003, and it will just give you a folder of all of, and then you can work on those.
Yep, and that's how I have my photo albums. That's exactly how I have things organized. I have different topics, but for my home pictures, I have family 2019, family 2018, family 2017, and it just goes right there. It's really, really simple to do this, and it's fantastic as far as putting things in context when you really want to take the time to look at them all.
Exactly. And as one of the things we've sort of been dancing around, but we've sort of hinted at, is that one of the keys to being organized is to keep being organized. On a regular basis, you have to go in and make sure that stuff is cleaned out, that your folders are in the proper order. If you do it often enough, it won't take long at all. And sometimes it's just a matter of how much is there. Like I have folders for all of my email. I go back and go organize my emails anytime my inbox hits 150 emails in it. Because by keeping it under that number, it means I'm regularly filing as it comes in, putting stuff in the right place. Friday afternoon, just before you shut down for the week, is a great time to go over your desk, clear it off, make sure things are in the right place. So you start off the next week with a fresh start.
Yeah, again, it's very, very important to put organizing as part of your to-do list in your calendar. And if you can do it at the same time every week, like you're talking about on a Friday, as far as a purge for the week, that's fantastic. There are certain things you're going to do every day. Um, but it's really important to get yourself into a system. And as you said, once you start doing that and you start following your system and you do it for a little while, it's going to become habit and it's going to be a whole lot easier for you to continue to do it.
Right. And one of the most important things is to do this before you have to do this. I learned that a number of years ago with bookkeeping. I had been putting off the bookkeeping for my business, putting it aside, and then the system crashed. And I had to start all from scratch. Now, and because I kept putting it aside, it took a couple of days to get everything back up and running. Now, I do my bookkeeping every Friday. It literally only takes me 10 minutes because I've only got the stuff from that week.
Yeah, and obviously, if you're working a business that still sends out invoices and so on and so forth from your bookkeeping system, it's really, really important to make sure you do that as often as you possibly can schedule. Because the bottom line is, if you do your work and you don't invoice your clients,
They don't pay you.
your statement goes, but you're going to run out of money.
Yep. So, yeah, once you get yourself organized, put aside a little time to stay organized. Go through the emails, go through the bills, go through your files and make sure they're up to date. Most of us put that aside because it's a daunting task. It's, oh, I don't want to have to spend all that time. But if you do it on a regular basis, you're only spending 5-10 minutes at a clip. So we're just about at the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway our listeners need for this week?
But do not use a match. I'm just kidding. The bottom line is time invested organizing now and in a system of organizing is going to be time saved. It's going to be less stress. It's going to make you a more comfortable, better, happier person.
Absolutely. I think that's a big takeaway is being more organized gets rid of your stress. And let's face it, who among us wouldn't like a less stressful life? So take the time to do it right once, and then take the little bit of time it takes to keep it organized. With less stress in your life and more organization, you'll find things run a lot smoother. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can find us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also find us on the iTunes Store, the Apple Podcasts app, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. See you then.